We'll have to leave for class though.
First row.
Thank you.
Never did that in school, but
Now I feel like
Done.
someone cares.
You know.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
You all care. Surely you all care. Don't call me sure.
All right, I think we're on time. Can anyone confirm the audio and online participants?
whoever is talking is muted.
Yeah, everyone's muted. Okay.
You know somebody, maybe you can pick a person.
Oh, we have.
Or maybe they don't hear us. I mean, that's an option too.
The owl's unmuted, so
Yeah.
we use these.
Okay.
now.
I think, yeah, we're on time. Let's just start.
Sure.
All right, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in today. We're delighted to have a big crowd today. Today we have Jonathan Kessluk, our UCF and FSI alumnus. We're great to have you today. And he's from NASA KSC. He works with launching services as a support. And let's hear about the services today.
Yeah.
Please have your time.
Hi, Jonathan Kessluk. I have a bunch of fun slides. A lot of them are, I'll admit, the basic package because I like to just interact, chat, talk. So I'm not going to fully lecture, but I will talk forever about what I do and where I work because I actually really enjoy it. It's really fun. So if you have a question or I say an acronym and you're like, what is that? Please interrupt and just ask me or we can chat. I can talk about a wide variety of topics. So if you hear something and you're like, I want to know more about that, let me know. We might not do it right away, but if we have time at the end, I can navigate around and talk about that. So the prime topic today, it's pretty generic, but I'm going to talk about the Launch Services Program. So when you start getting into NASA, NASA is a huge agency with a lot of subparts and a lot of programs and centers and everything. So I work for the Launch Services Program, which is a agency program run out of Kennedy Space Center. So we report to headquarters in Washington, D.C., but we operate out of Kennedy. And then within the Launch Services Program is basically the place where all of NASA's scientific payloads, more of the flagship missions, come to get their launch service. So people that build satellites, you spend many, many years of your life doing it. And a lot of them, especially in the NASA side, they don't think about launch. So I know that the Mars rover will work when it gets to Mars because all the NASA people worked on it and they're really smart. All of you are really smart. It'll work when it gets there. How do you get it there? That's what we help out with. So we'll talk about that. A little bit about me, I guess. I just kind of threw stuff on this slide. It's kind of generic. I got my computer engineering degree here, undergrad. I haven't really gone for my master's. Yeah.
I already have a question.
You already have a question.
Which years?
Which years?
Well, which year did you graduate? And which years were you working at FSI?
Gotcha. I think I started in FSI in 2016 and I graduated 2020. Although I came back to launch our payload.
Yes,
So-
but it launched, in January 21. It's true. Mhm.
So I left FSI in 2020 and then came back in 21 to do a quick little,
You guys went out there somewhere for that, right?
yeah, we went out to LA, California.
I
That's
see.
not me, is it? Okay.
No.
Yeah, so it was Virgin Orbit and when they were still a company and QPace went on that one.
Okay.
Yep, a part of the Elena 20 program or launch. So yeah, I have my bachelor's, may go back for my master's. I considered PhD. Don't really know right now. I'm very busy now with what I do. Luckily, it's going to slowly wane off for a little bit and then pick back up. So I may try to get a quick 2-year master's or something. We'll see how that falls out. So my current position is data systems in the books, which is actually government's great. I'm listed as a computer engineer. My position title is data systems, but no one calls me that. When I do launches and I work missions, I'm a missions communications engineer. On launch day, I'm a mission operations director. And then I get to do fun projects on my off time when I'm not working a mission. And what I mean by that is currently I'm working on the Europa Clipper mission, heading to Europa in October. It's very fun. However, as you might know from school projects or even just working here, not everything goes to plan all the time. So there are things that I've been working weekly, daily on this project, trying to make sure it runs smoothly and things go well. And we'll talk a little bit about what I do later. We can go more in depth if anyone's interested. But because of my computer engineering background, a lot of what I do is more electrical, comp sci a little bit. So I am going to be focusing a little bit of that after I get out of the generic stuff, unless someone really wants me to talk about coupled loads analysis and structures and all that stuff. I'm not an expert, but I can barely talk about it. Basic nerd, I like movies, board games, video games, that kind of stuff. Walks on the beach. I did do an internship in Germany for 6 months. Julie let me go for that. I said bye, and then I came back and started working here again. That's why I worked at FSI. Woo. So you can see on some of those pictures there. So this one here is Europa Clipper. Before it left JPL, they were still doing assembly and test. It is now at Kennedy Space Center in the Payload Hazardous Servicing Facility. And it looks very similar, but now it has its solar panels and it's got its covers and they've already done the tests and everything. Clipper's cool. It's the largest spacecraft NASA has ever sent interplanetary. There's a cool fun fact if you didn't know. Its wingspan when the solar panels are deployed is the size of the Statue of Liberty. So kind of cool. I think so at least. We can talk about Clipper maybe later. I think we'll talk about Clipper later. But this is a very big spacecraft, largest one we've sent interplanetary. You'll see over here, we can guess that this is a CubeSat. So this was a TROPICS-1, one of the Venture Class Launch Services payloads. I got this was one of my first missions with the Launch Services program. It launched on an Astra 3.1 rocket, 3.3 rocket, Astra's Rocket 3. Unfortunately, that one was not a successful launch.
Launch. I was gonna ask if it worked.
That was not a successful launch, so the payloads were not retrievable. But Tropics 2 and 3, because it was a set of 3 launches, the Launch Services Program renegotiated a contract, and then they contracted Tropics 2 and 3 with Rocket Lab, and those are successful, and they contacted them, and they are now scanning the oceans for hurricanes and weather patterns and things. They're pretty cool. I get to travel with my job, which is why I put a waterfall up there. That's Yosemite. It was fun. It was awesome. I got to take a break and do that. We have the facility I work at is here at Kennedy Space Center, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, but we have a sister facility at Vandenberg Space Force Station. You may hear me refer to Hangar AE or Building 836. Those are synonymous for all intents and purposes, but one's on the West Coast, one's on the East Coast. That's the facility I work out of, but when I get to go to California, I get to go visit cool stuff and I like to travel. So I put a picture because I had to put pictures. I also have 2 cats. They're wonderful and amazing. I didn't think I was a cat person until I got surprised one day and she was like, hey, we're getting a cat. And I was like, oh, okay. Now we have 2 of them and they're amazing. That's about me. I'm going to skip this video because it's in the basic package and it's just a bunch of animations with Fred. That's a NASA logo, which looks really cool and it's really pretty animated. And I know who worked on this and I'm sorry. It's like 2 minutes and I would rather blab for 2 minutes. So this is like the basic vision, mission, business pitch that LSP gives, Launch Services Program. So we do science and robotic missions using commercial rockets. We've been doing it since 1998, but that's just the program itself. ELV, the Expendable Launch Vehicles group program, still unclear about that. They existed before 98. So this group in itself has been doing this for a very long time. And so we have a lot of experts in a lot of these rockets, historical and new. You'll see a little bit more of that later. So we do science and robotic, no humans. However, we do support the commercial crew program and deep space logistics. We deliver spacecraft that observe Earth, visit other planets, and explore the universe. spacecraft range from CubeSats to weather satellites to telescopes to Mars rovers and more. That was my way of reading this slide without reading. So this is just our hype video, and I'll just keep blabbing while you watch it because it's really cool. But we work out at every single launch site, facility, everywhere. So we are basically insurance for the government. Government can't really buy insurance on some of these spacecraft, Mars rovers, Europa Clipper, they're unique spacecraft, billions of dollars. You can't just insure that. So the program as a whole, when you include contractors, matrix employees, et cetera, have about 500 people. And their whole job is to make sure that these missions successfully make it to space and work when they get there. Now, we don't go deep into the spacecraft architecture all the time. We don't necessarily build the spacecraft. Someone else from NASA will give us their spacecraft and say, get us to this orbit, get us to this planet, get us to this place. And we help them with that. Some of those rockets, being some that you may be familiar with, Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy are the ones that launch all the time now. Vulcan's just starting up, one successful launch, their second one's coming up soon. I've seen figures that say they want to try to hit 5 or 6 this year. It's getting a little late, but I know two or three Vulcans have arrived at the Cape because they stopped me while I was driving in and I had to wait for them to pass. So I know that they're there. I just don't know if they're going to launch. We do have Blue Origin's New Glenn on contract, and we still have Pegasus XL, although there's only one left, and I think they took the wings off. So I don't know if we'll ever use one of those again, but they are free to bid on our stuff. So this is the vehicle fleet that we put all of NASA's flagship missions on. This is based on the NASA Launch Services 2 contract. That's the mechanism, the business mechanism that LSP uses to get rockets. So all of these rockets are on that contract, meaning when we have a mission like Europa Clipper, like Perseverance, which we launched, they come to us with that, they give us all their requirements, and then we will go put out a request for proposal. If you like business stuff, you like this. We put an RFP, and then these companies are allowed to bid these rockets on that and bid their services. So then NASA, LSP, sometimes I'm on those source boards too. We will pick the best rocket with the best launch services proposal and choose that company. So that's how the flagship ones go. But, oh, I forgot about this. This is roughly to scale. So if you wanted to see how the heights compare, a New Glenn is basically the size of the football field here. Which is kind of cool because if you just go stand out there later and just like look at it and you're like, wow, that's a big rocket. But these are also pretty big. They fit on the field and they're huge. So yeah, those are the big rockets for the flagship missions, the ones that are very expensive. But we also have a new contract called VADR, the Venture Class Acquisition of Dedicated and Rideshare. NASA loves their acronyms. The logo for this is really cool because it looks like a little red lightsaber. It's a new contract for NASA missions that don't necessarily have the full scope in budget to be able to afford a premier launch service. So these rockets before, we do full end-to-end analysis, assistance, integration, all that stuff. Here, we really just focus on integration. So we make sure the spacecraft gets made into the rocket and it goes smoothly. The other one, we do full end-to-end mission from phase A, where the mission gets conceptualized, all the way to phase E, when they finish out the mission.
So somebody from launch services is part of the mission design team, basically, that's what you're saying? Okay.
A little bit, yeah. They provide insight and guidance and advisory on the launch side of it. They won't necessarily go in depth on how to design a spacecraft or that kind of thing. You can always ask, I mean, they'll probably help. We like helping. So you can see there's a lot more rockets here as well. We also have Starship, it is on VADR, even though they are not accepting stuff right now, but they could bid on a VADR launch. CubeSat Launch Initiative, you might have heard of. CSLI can also take advantage of the VADR contract. We use this as our mechanism to get rockets as well. So a CubeSat in the future on CSLI
Working on it.
could launch on any one of these rockets if they bid for that mission. Heard something online? Any questions? Again, interrupt me if you have questions. I could talk all day. I'll just keep talking. Oh, and I guess another more businessy thing. All these rockets get certified. So we have our whole entire rocket analysis team that looks up and down the rocket from every single discipline, and they give them a rating based on risk tolerance and risk level. And then the missions, even these can get certified. So you can define your risk posture and pick a rocket that's right for you. This is where we've gone. These are all the missions in the past that we have done. We just hit our 104th mission. You can see there's a lot around Earth. So when I have done public outreach, gone to conventions, gone out to the public, and a lot of the time I hear, why do we do stuff in space? Why is it important? Why are we going to Mars and not focusing on Earth? I see a lot more Earth here. So you can see we do a lot more Earth science than anything else. Now there is a smattering of other things out there, and they're all really cool missions, but we focus a lot on Earth. Looking where we're going, it doesn't change. We're still focusing on Earth.
I was just wondering, is it science only that goes through you guys, or does the military also go to you guys for launches?
For now, it is just the NASA scientific payloads.
Okay.
Yep. Commercial crew programs like crew stuff, we do some analysis and assistance with deep space logistics, which is Artemis, and commercial crew program for ISS. We do a little bit, and CRS, commercial resupply services. We do a little bit of that stuff, but mainly just NASA things. Yeah. I think this slide is as of January. Am I good on time? Kind of. I guess some cool missions. Escapade will be the first New Glenn launch, ideally in October this year. We'll see, hopefully. Europa Clipper, I am working on right now. That is my mission as far as LSP is concerned. I do all the communication and telemetry for it. Let's see some more fun stuff that I can tell you about this slide because I think it's cool. We are launching the United States deorbit vehicle. That's for deorbiting the ISS. That's a cool one.
Regarding your colors and your legend there, primary, advisory, venture class, what do those mean?
So primary is full end-to-end, meaning we get one of those nice big rockets and we help them out and we do everything. Pink, the advisory, these are not necessarily on one of our rockets. These are missions that chose for whatever reason, or NASA chose to put them on a different rocket. For example, Artemis 2, GERS is deep space logistics, IHAB's deep space or gateway. There's other missions that we actually provide advisory roles to, so we have our hands in it and we do a lot with them, but they're not really necessarily our end-to-end missions. And then venture class is that Vader one, is the CubeSats, the smaller, not as, what did I say before? I liked how I said it. The scope of the budget is smaller. So yeah, that's the color coding. Last thing I'll say on this slide, I guess not, I did goes you. With the help from somebody else, because I went on a detail during that one. I'm backup for Roman Space Telescope, and I am primary for Dragonfly. Dragonfly is a cool one, going to Titan, the first rotorcraft. That's actually a mission, not just a technology demonstration.
So, you're doing telemetry Europa Clipper, but like during the launch phase or during the launch phase? Like what does it mean?
I get involved around 3 years out from launch, and then I work to define the requirements for communication and telemetry all the way up until launch. Once they separate from, oh, that's a good question. Okay, so once the spacecraft separates from the rocket,
Yes,
LSP is done.
okay. All
We
right,
said, good job, we got you to space, you're safe.
okay.
Good luck in your
So
operations.
you're like, while it's going up there, you can do still checking on the spacecraft or?
Like while it's
you're just
launching.
looking at telemetry of the rocket,
Um,
the spacecraft is off, right?
depends. So
Okay.
some do interleave telemetry where they will actually send their telemetry into the rocket,
Okay.
and the rocket will then send it down to the ground. And my group will actually separate that telemetry. We might talk about it a little later, but my group essentially is the data acquisition portion of the launch services program. So we independently process all the data, so all those rockets. All these rockets here, we get all of the telemetry raw from all of these rockets on launch from the launch provider. We also get processed telemetry from them as well. We will independently process that data and then check it and make sure that it makes sense and that everything looks good. So we are an independent validation and verification of these launch systems. But yeah, once the spacecraft separates, it's good luck.
Godspeed.
Godspeed. Hope your operations are tight. We do help a little bit, but once you get into that operations phase, we've kind of helped you get to space. We've helped you get to where you need to go. Once you separate, you're on your way. So the teams don't usually like us to stay involved. I'll talk a little bit more about myself soon. I've already talked about cool missions. I did Psyche, yay woohoo. I was on console for Dart, that's fun. These are just all the NASA centers. Okay, so the next little bit I wanted to talk about, because I'm trying to give you an overview. I could talk about me and my stuff all day, but I would like to do a little bit about you and maybe working at NASA, working that kind of stuff. So I do have some slides on that. And if you're interested, we can either talk about it if you have a question, or you can just talk to me later, whatever you want. Luckily, this is my last thing for the day, so you could talk to me all the way to the end of the day, except for you have a class. Government employee, so you could be a government employee. I'm a government employee, I'm a civil servant. So I took my oath of office back in 2020. Same one as the president. I just thought that was cool, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. When I became a civil servant, they're like, read this oath and put your right hand up, and I'm like, that's what the president reads? And they're like, yeah, it's the same oath. Anyway, I'm not gonna read all this, but the government employee, it's your civil servant, very stable. It's a government job. You can find a lot of information about the difference between government and industry. The joke is it's typically slower paced. I would like to say that I mostly work 40-hour weeks, which is generally true. So I'm not like going crazy on my 50, 60-hour weeks. But in my business, they happen, especially on launch day. I've done a 12-hour operation where I sat on console for 12 hours. I can't tell you that I stayed an extra hour because I'm not supposed to work over 12 hours. So I definitely was there for just 12 hours. But so launch can be very exciting, but depending on where you are in the government.
Did FSI prepare you well for long working hours?
FSI definitely prepared me well.
I don't think that's.
I think that's the answer. I thought that's what she wanted to hear. I thought that's what she wanted to hear.
I just wanted to hear the truth.
Sorry, FSI was a very wonderful experience that prepared me for the workforce, so I could do a great job and help my country, because I'm a civil servant.
All
right, contractor employee. NASA has a lot of contractors. Government really likes their contractors. A lot of reasons why, but you could be a contractor employee at KSC or at another NASA center. Launch Services Program has a whole entire group of contractors, and we work hand in hand. Now, some places the contractors do different kinds of things. In LSP, we work real close together. So I have a contractor counterpart that pretty much does what I do. I check their work, they check my work, we help each other. It's a great, happy family most of the time.
Do you pay double for the same work? NASA's paying double for the same work?
Similar work. Sorry if I said same, similar.
Okay.
So usually the contractors are responsible for operation and implementation, while the NASA civil servant is for design, test, and verification. That's getting real in the weeds.
Okay.
All right, Launch Services Program specifically pays for all of them out of the NASA budget. So we keep spacecraft separate because that makes everything cleaner. Anyway, this one is just our specific contractor on the Elvis contract. NASA internships, woo, it's very big.
I have a question.
Yes,
Is there any of those available for non-citizens?
citizens. That's a tricky question because I don't quite know the full answer. The shortest answer is there are ways to work for NASA as an international partner. On the contractor,
You can't be a civil servant, right?
the civil servant side is trickier.
No, you can't, I don't. think
Yeah,
so.
I don't think so, but contractor side, it's
I
possible.
mean, you have to take an oath, so I don't think they will let you do that if you're not.
I know, I'm asking for the other one.
If you'd like, feel free to send me an email later and I can go look into it for you and get a proper response.
Do you wanna go work for NASA?
I'm just asking.
Do it,
You never
do
know
it.
What you want.
Do it.
What's it, I'm gonna ask another thing.
Sure.
What are, the. Well, what are the vacations days?
The what, sorry?
The vacation day. Like, how is, yeah, how many days?
Annual
How many
vacation.
days did you get? What's the,
Vacation days.
Oh, vacation. I'm so sorry. My brain was like, what?
yeah, no, it's a
Zero.
weird question because, you know, nobody cares, but I don't care.
I think I get, so it depends on your GS level.
There to the.
So your pay scale, so government works on a pay scale, so it's on the general schedule. And so you gain hours on your paid time off based on your level of that scale. I can't think of the exact number, but I feel like I accumulate up to 240 hours or something in some. I think the ceiling's 240, but I have 140 every January or something.
Okay.
And then I accrue over every pay period.
Wow, that is the weeds now.
Yeah,
I
well,
thought it was
yeah,
the weeds earlier.
Join
but
up on
that's the weeds
vacation.
now.
I work on a flex schedule, so I
Alright.
just hit my first 40.
So we have a response from NASA, Ocean is from NASA. So young PPs can be international, so there are ways international can work.
Yeah,
And then we have a question here, what was your OST internship experience?
my internship experience.
Mhm.
So I had an internship with OSTEM. Great segue. I had an internship with OSTEM back in 2016, right before FSI. And that is non-civil servant, so I was more of a contractor. It was great. I was just software. I'd say it's just software. It was software with the Artemis program. So I did a lot of looking at code and checking it against coding standards. I wrote a program for alarm tracking. So there's a lot of internships there at NASA, which are pretty cool, that are very helpful. My internship I think that was a question, right? Like my internships. Sorry.
Internship experience with Austin.
With OSTEM specifically. So I did a spring internship, so it was just the spring semester, and then I got extended for the summer semester. They asked me to stay. I guess I did an okay job. They wouldn't let me stay for the fall semester because they said, Jonathan, you have to go back and finish your degree so you can work here. I was like, but I want to stay, and they're like, no. Okay. But I mean, this kind of explains the whole OSTEM thing and how it felt for me. It was just for the semester that I had. It was an interview. They said, great, we're gonna hire you. Basically, you're a contractor, you get a little stipend. Every 3 months, you get a dump of money. There's STEM and non-STEM, but you're not actually like a full employee of NASA. You're more of a contractor than anything else. It's still a NASA program, but I don't know how it works business-wise.
That was the word I was looking for, benefits. How are the benefits?
Benefits in general, pretty great. I
Okay.
mean, I have health insurance, I get my time off. And most of all the supervisors that I've dealt with are very like, why are you working over 40 hours? Go home, see your family. Yeah, I think one of the benefits is the way that a lot of groups can change how you get paid. So I know we were joking about it on the weeds, but like I get paid for my first 40. So if I do 40 hours on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I don't have to come to work on Friday.
Mhm.
So like there's a benefit, in my opinion, of what I get to do. Not everybody gets that. So I can't think right now of all the benefits because unfortunately I'm an engineer and not in the weeds of business, but I can get back to you on that if
Do
you.
you
I
timestamp?
just wanted like.
Do I what?
Do you timestamp?
I'm STEM.
Do you,
I'm not sure I understand.
well, do you card your time? Do you count your hours?
Technically, I am hourly because we can charge different programs based on what
I
work we
see.
do.
So you
there are
you
charges.
do that.
I do log my hours. I don't have to log exactly what I'm doing every single moment of the day. But I can do like, I gain comp time. So I guess that's one. So if I work over 40, I can stash those hours after 40 to use later and get time off.
I don't.
I don't know what you're
Yes,
asking for.
No, it's perfect.
I
We
just
just
wanted
talk
to
about
get
benefits, so-
picture, you know, I just wanted a general picture, it's enough.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't have the best answer for benefits,
No.
but please remind me. I will get you an answer if you really
But I
want
think
it.
that's very important.
I will get you an answer. Then there's pathways. That's the one you might hear. I'll get to you in 1 second. That's the civil servant one. You're actually hired on as a civil servant. It's undergrad and postgrad, STEM and non-STEM. Benefits included because you're a government employee. This one is
It's
still an
interesting,
internship.
it's,
You might have heard co-op and other businesses. You're basically an employee. You are expected to go back to school and finish your degree or your postgrad stuff. But at some point, once you're done with your degree and everything, you have the option to be converted into a full-time employee. So if you really want to work at NASA, do your best to get into that. If you just want an internship because you want the experience, or you should apply for everything anyway, in my opinion, then OSTEM's the route for you if you just want like a summer internship.
Regarding like funding, I had a friend of mine who really unfortunately got offered a pathways position and then had it rescinded based on federal funding. I've been very hesitant to like like look into that because of, you know, regarding the last year's budget was really bad. What is it looking like this year now that we're in like an actual election year? At least, do we have any more security or is it looking?
The 2025 is a rough year for NASA. If
Yeah.
you look at the budgets that's publicly posted and everything, NASA did not get an increase at all. I believe it's straight flat. So whatever we have fiscal year 24, same we have 25, we have to make do with that. No matter what, inflation, in hiring, all that, we have to deal with it. So 2025 is gonna be a little rough fiscal year, but everyone that I've talked to and seen has high hopes and outlooks for fiscal year 26 and beyond. That's the best way I don't know all the in-depth talks going on.
I mean, it never hurts, even if you're not gonna end up working at NASA, to do a NASA internship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But so also since
it's not like a
pathways,
waste of time.
pathways to civil servant, so if there's a hiring freeze or a furlough or whatever, those positions get affected.
Yeah, I ultimately want to end up getting like a long-term job at NASA for my career. And doing so, how much does NASA value like a private industry experience prior?
Very well.
Okay.
So I mean, we love it when we hire people from SpaceX, ULA, all that stuff, because at least in my
Does
group,
that happen?
it does happen, yeah.
Okay. I always thought SpaceX pays people well, you know.
They do. They also work a lot. We're government, so like I said, we
Okay.
expected to work 40 hours.
Okay, that's.
Yeah,
Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Oh, industry experience, yes, we like that. They do hire a lot of new grads, at least in my group specifically, or my program specifically. We do a lot of new grads, but we also love very experienced people, and people do come over to us from all industries. I mean, we have every single discipline in the launch services program. You name it, electrical, mechanical, nuclear, whatever. I could just go down all the list of disciplines that exist, but we have them. So, yeah, and I can give you, this is just I don't know, I don't think this slide is super useful. Oh, I guess there it is. There's the disciplines. It is useful. There it is. There's all the disciplines.
Are you in one of the bunny suits?
Not in this picture, but I did get in a bunny student stand next to Clipper the other day. So I had to go take an oscilloscope and look at a 10 megahertz signal to make sure the signal looked clean. Those of you in EE, pay attention. I did hit auto set though, so my professor would have been. That's all I have in this presentation, but I have more like actual slide decks. If you want more info about internships or anything, come to me after. I mean, we're kind of already after, aren't we? 4:30, my bad.
Goes to 4:30.
Got here at 3, my brain. So get with me after. I can give you some resources or links or whatever and get you set up with at least the application process. Yeah. Yes.
So the question, are you recruiting?
Are we recruiting?
Yes.
The launch services program is always looking for interns, specifically pathways. I don't remember. I think there might be I think it got released and it might be closing soon. I'd have to check on that. My branch specifically just recently did 2 pathway interns. And one of them just got converted to full-time. So, I mean, are we recruiting? The
So then
program's
this
always
pathway
recruiting.
intern was doing this after graduating. They
Okay.
graduated, they did the pathway intern, and boom, they got the.
So they did a pathways internship while in school.
Mhm.
We expect that you do like, usually it's a semester working 40 hours a week, you have a real job.
Mhm.
Then you go back to school for that next semester,
Mhm.
then you come back for a semester, real job, 40 hours a week.
Mhm.
So you do that kind of pattern until you graduate. Then there's some time period afterward where you're working that you have to, and then at the end of that time period, we have to either convert you or find you somewhere else to go.
They will find it for you,
Depends on the situation, case by case basis.
okay.
So I have a response, it says, pathway just closed a week ago.
Okay. I knew it was recent.
But that would be for a start date in January?
Yeah, I think it would have been the spring.
Okay,
And
and then do those always start in the spring?
they are,
So now, like,
Spring
everybody
and
has to wait
fall.
a year? Or do they have to wait 6 months?
after applying to start.
No, like it just closed a week ago, so when's the
Oh,
next?
I don't know the
offer?
cadence
6
that they do
months,
that.
Or is it a year from now?
I couldn't tell
But
you.
I hear
Kate.
Jose's online, so maybe we can help out. Hi, Jose.
Jose's probably like, man, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about at all.
No, it's
Sorry,
filling in.
I'm an engineer, like all the way down here. I'm like 7 parts removed from the top of NASA.
You're living the dream life.
I'm living the dream life.
Yeah.
I say it facetiously, but I love what I do. I'm giving you all the boilerplate stuff right now, but I'm more than happy to come back and do detailed topics like timing signals and serial data and interleaf telemetry,
Well, why don't
coupled
you?
loads analysis.
Well, why don't you share, like, so, you were working at FSI, you were doing your classes, and then you started applying everywhere, right? For jobs as your graduation was approaching. Why don't you share your experience finding the job?
Finding the job.
Yeah,
Okay, you had a question, I'm sorry. I see you.
Yeah, it should be fast because it was kind of half answered, which was,
Then I'll answer.
about what time of year are pathways?
Yeah, I can't speak to the cadence because unfortunately, where I'm at in my specific group, I see an announcement that says, hey, do you want a pathways intern in your group? Tell us, we'll put out a bid or a job application for it. And then sometime later I see hey, we're releasing pathways next week and
into the wild.
into the wild. Yeah. And so then I'm just there. And if my group wanted one, then we would look at all they call them certifications, but then we look at all the candidates and make a choice at that point.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry, that's not the best answer in the
sorry.
world. but-
Yeah, I think we have a response here from Cheryl. All pathways typically open up for application late February.
It's typical,
Pretty
but
much,
they
yeah.
they shift,
Sure.
I think, frequently.
So can one get, on some sort of, email notification mailing list?
Not entirely sure if there's a
Yes, there's-
notification email list, but they are all posted on
I think you
usajobs.gov.
can set up a save search on you.
And you can set up a save search that'll email you weekly, daily, monthly, if a position. So you should sign up for daily,
Hourly,
hourly.
yes,
Yeah.
secondly,
Then I'll talk
too long, but is pathways more of a an undergrad focus or a graduate focus?
Both. So they split you up into, they take your year of degree, like freshman, junior, senior, all that stuff, or post grad, wherever you're at, and then they take how many credit hours you have. They split you into, this is like way in the weeds. They split you into certs, which is like you would be at a GS6 equivalent, 7 equivalent, 8 equivalent, 9 equivalent. The supervisor decides which GS level they're looking for, and then they look at all those certs. So if the supervisor wants a post grad GS 11, 12, they really have some high-end research stuff they're doing, they will only look at that 11, 12 cert list. If they're looking for more entry level, they'll look at the GS 7 or 8 or 6 list. You asked my experience. My experience is very boring and I'm sorry, but I will still go over it. After FSI, I went out into the wide world and put in applications. I got accepted as a high voltage test technician at a manufacturing facility, 3rd shift. It was wonderful. Got to work overnight. That was the facetious part. I know I sound facetious a lot. That was the real
Oh,
one.
so you didn't start straight away?
I didn't start straight away.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
But I had also applied for NASA, and government can be slow sometimes. And so while I was working there, I received a call saying, hey, would you like to interview? And I was like, yes. So I'd only worked there for like 2 or 3 months. I know they tell you, don't job hop that fast. Sorry, I did it. So I worked there for like 2 months, got an interview, and I was like, okay. And then I jumped over like 2 months later, like after they said, you're good. And so I jumped over. I was actually a contractor at KSC. And then the other job opportunity that was civil servant, which delayed by 6 months, called me and said, hey, we're going to offer you that job. And I was like, where have you been for 6 months? I'm trying to make a living and like not starve.
Well, you were already at NASA.
But I was already in NASA, so it was a very easy transition, but I had only worked in that job for about 3 to 4 months. And then I jumped again. So you have to know what you want,
Well, you
but
also
I'm happy
have
where I'm at.
to be
So it's worth
lucky,
it.
know.
But
You have to be lucky that they call you.
it was luck, yeah. But I was happy where I was each step of the way, but I had a goal in mind. I actually really wanted to work at NASA. That was kind of what I wanted. And a lot of people that work at NASA do. Not everybody does. Everybody has their own life story, right? But I really did want to. I enjoy space. I enjoy all that stuff. And so I made the jumps that I did to get me on a path to get where I wanted to go. So every time an opportunity opened up, I went for it. If I could give you any advice, take opportunities, even if you don't think they work out. I started at this 3rd shift job. It was actually a great experience. I still use lessons I learned from that 3-month job. So I say take opportunities. It's my thing. they'll lead you to where you
How
want to
many
go eventually.
applications would you say you put out there?
Oh,
And were they the only ones to call back all these people?
didn't really count. No, they weren't all. I got one from like Redwire in Iowa or whatever. There's a couple other companies that reached out.
That's not bad either.
No, some of them were great offers, but I
Yes.
couldn't leave Florida for other reasons at the
Okay.
time. I think I didn't put out a lot. It was like 20, 30
Mhm.
applications before
That's
I found one where after the interview, I was like, yeah, I want to do this.
Mhm.
I didn't get 30 interviews, a lot of them ghosted. But
Yeah, but it's good that, you share
yeah,
how
I
many
applied,
applications it takes to get.
I went
you
on
know.
like the job sites and all that, and I applied for every single one that I was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing, maybe I wouldn't mind doing that. And then there were some that were like just outside the scope of what I think I could feasibly justify that I had experience for. I was like, yeah, if I not stretch the truth, but if I like really try my hardest, I could justify that I have some kind of level of experience. I still applied for those two. And I just shot them out in the wilderness until I got answers back. So but I'll get to you 1 second.
Yeah.
But that was really, I guess my route was the traditional route. I went to college, I got my degree, I sent out a bunch of applications. I did an interview, it was a panel interview. So I had 5 or 6 people. Unfortunately, it was around the COVID time, so it was a Teams meeting. They threw up some slides on there and said, tell us about this. What do you see about this? And they showed me a network diagram with some like, it was more of a block diagram of like telemetry flows and everything. They're like, tell us about this. And I was like, I don't know what you want. So here's what I see. And I was like, this looks like it could be multicast traffic and I spouted all these words for my classes and everything. And I guess I was good enough. I guess I said the right words. I think now that I'm in my position and I know the people that were in my interview, feel like they went easy on me because they could have gone way harder on me. I know a lot more that I do now than I did before. I mean, hopefully you always learn every day.
What
But
is your
yeah,
GPA?
my GPA?
Yeah.
Oh, don't ask the question.
Well, I just want to give hope to the people in this room.
Don't judge me. Okay, preface. I've been out of academia for a while.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't have the best relation. I think I was like a 3.4. It's either 3.4, 3.42.
Yeah, I just wanna point out that it doesn't really matter in the end,
Yeah. I think the only time I have ever,
It needs
so
to be
as a
not too bad.
As a professional, the only time I've ever looked at GPA because I've actually done interviews and reviews of resumes for full-time employees and for Pathways interns in our group. And the only time I've ever considered GPA is if I look at their resume and I'm like, there's no way. And then I look at their GPA to see if their like schooling backs up what they claim. Just like a rough guesstimate on like, oh, if they're a 4.0 GPA and they said they do all these amazing things, okay, maybe that's true. If they're like a 1.5 and then they say they've scaled Everest or something, I'll be like, okay. I'm being laissez-faire about it, but like, and the only other time is if there were 2 candidates that were real close to each other and I was like, all right, I've got to have some kind of,
Wow.
you have to have some
The
kind of
better
metric.
GPA?
You have to have some kind of metric.
Alright.
So if they were like identical candidates, which is, it's only happened like once where they had very similar experience, very similar qualifications, and I was like, I don't know, I have to, so I like, who had a cover letter? Let me read it and see if I vibe with them, and then GPA,
Okay.
so. It
Yeah,
really
I just
doesn't
want-
do a factor at
I
all.
mean, I just want somebody in your position to share the
Yeah.
message,
Now it is a government job. I mean, if you go to SpaceX or something, maybe they have a different way of doing it. Did interview 4 times with them. It was a lot more strenuous interview process. I answered a question wrong about batteries and that's what they wanted from me, so I didn't get the job. Question? So sorry, did I answer your question?
No,
I'm so sorry.
one thing I'll have to share is at a recent job fair with a Blue Origin recruiter, the person specifically went, yeah, I don't care about your GPA since you've graduated.
but
And I went,
I mean, I don't want, yeah, okay.
My question is, the positions you applied to at NASA, were they full-time positions or were they like pathways or something?
When I was after FSI,
Yeah.
it was full-time positions.
Okay,
I was looking for a job, not an internship.
right.
If you graduate, your pathways opportunity is very limited because there's a core requirement for so many days after graduation, you must have completed so many hours of work to be converted full-time. So if you have graduated and then you start pathways right away, you might make it. If it's been like 4 months since graduation and then you start pathways, you might not make the hour requirement by the end.
You know
So-
when that cutoff, how long that cutoff
It's
is?
like 180 hours or
No,
something.
no, no, like, you have to have the number of hours by when? How many?
I just know it in hour numbers. I don't know, I haven't like,
Sure,
sat there and
sure,
been like, this is 5 work weeks. or
No, 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 like, when does the deadline hit for, you have to have 180 hours by then?
Graduation,
By
like your graduation, the day of graduation,
Right.
you have 100-something hours, and then you must have worked like 100-something hours.
Okay,
So if you start 100 hours late, you're only gonna work 40 hours and then you're not eligible to be converted.
okay, that makes sense.
So we wouldn't probably even like bring you on.
Yeah.
At that point.
And
In the
my-
back,
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on what you were just saying about the GPA, that in the end, it doesn't really matter that much. My question is whether this is more of a personal opinion or whether it's sort of the culture in NASA, because in academia, I can see there are people who really don't care and there's people who care a lot. Is it similar there, or is it really just in NASA, in that sort of industry?
I can't speak for the whole entire agency. Every center has a different culture, and then every program in that center has a different culture. I think the culture at Kennedy Space Center is very group oriented. It's very, I don't hide information from my coworkers. I don't hide information from other groups or programs. If someone comes to me and says, hey, I have an issue, how would you solve it? I'm gonna tell them everything I know, if I'm allowed to. I know a lot of proprietary stuff. If I'm allowed to, I will tell them. And that's the culture across Kennedy Space Center. So I can't judge every single culture in all of NASA or the government. I just know that when the people that I work with, we care about results. We care about if you fit in with the team, if you can provide value. So I personally, I don't care if you have a 2.0 GPA.
Low.
2.0, okay, sorry if you have a 2.0, it is starting to get low. I mean, I know to get your undergrad, you have to have like a 3 or something anyway at some point or in certain classes, so GPA matters. I'm not saying don't look at the number, it
Okay.
matters, but when I'm sitting there and hiring someone, I wanna see your performance in the interview. I wanna understand how you think, how I vibe with you if you're not meshing with me, or if I think you won't mesh with my team. Might not be a good fit. We like to bring people in for interviews, like in our building, we get them a badge to go on Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. We bring them into our data center, we walk them around, we talk to people, they meet all the team. Because we want to see that not only can you deliver on your product, but that you work well as a team. I know that sounds super, ooh, it's teamwork, but that's really how it is. I don't want to work with someone who's not going to work with me.
I would share too, like running a lab, the hands-on part. Like somebody with a 4.0 might not do well in the lab.
Mhm.
You don't need to convince me. I'm
Yeah.
all on that side.
Yeah.
It's just, I've seen a lot of people that do think that taking exams tell you whether someone is competent in research. I don't agree, but it's, yeah.
I want to see what you
But it
deliver.
sounds like it's more general, at least where you're working. That is a very nice.
As an interviewer, it would be my job to suss out, can you deliver on what I want you to do? Cause it's two-way street of interview. You're trying to figure out if you want to work with me. But I also want to figure out what you'll bring to my team or the team at large. So that's what I care about when I interview. I'm not going to look at your GPA. I mean, I'll look at it again, if there's a very close two candidates and I'm required to pick, I can't go over a certain number for whatever reason, or I'm already looking at 200 resumes and I need to filter some out and they're very close. Maybe I'll look at it because it's a metric that is very discrete and easy to sort by. But I'm not sitting there going, this 4.0 is better than this 3.2 because they have a 4.0. I mean, if your resume calls out to me, I'm gonna look at your resume. That's the gist of it. You had a question?
Yes, kind of tagging on resumes. So is there like a certain kind of, I guess, setup or a certain piece of information you're looking for in resumes? Or is there something wherever you're immediately like throwing it out?
Oh,
You just
great
keep
question.
that.
I will say, do not ignore the advice that career coaches or advisors give you about resumes. Because I would just repeat everything. Keep it concise and easy. I would say metrics are important. I don't want to hear you saved money. I want to see you saved this company $2 million doing this. I want to
An
see.
explicit amount kind of set
If
there.
you're a networking person, I worked on a network that supported 45 users and had a data share that supported 16 concurrent. Like, I want to see metrics. I want to know what you've worked with. I wouldn't say a number is too small at any point unless you really feel it's too small. But because if it's small, then I know as the interviewer, okay, maybe they could work their way up to getting to my use case of 1,000 users or my use case of really complicated simulations or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to see metrics. I want to know what you know. I don't want some wishy-washy, like, I know how to do Monte Carlo simulations. Cool. That's what we do. You know,
More details.
I've run 14,000 Monte Carlos for this one thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I would want to know.
How do you feel about explicitly listing like soft and hard skills in a section as opposed to integrated into like job descriptions?
Subjective.
Yeah,
Some people like to see them, some people don't. I don't think you'll get a straight answer from anyone.
that's fair.
I can tell you how I personally feel, but I don't think that's super valuable.
Well, I got a straight answer from somebody who likes them.
Yeah.
They said they like them.
Like, I don't know, I would say if it fits on your resume in a way that promotes you as an individual, put whatever you want.
I would
And-
say too, see, also, like, it's, you can just put whatever there, you know, like, obviously,
Yeah,
when
no,
you
the-
read the resume, you're like, all right, you know,
Yeah,
The
okay.
history of my
Yeah.
resume.
I mean,
it
there-
shows at the bottom.
Communication.
Yeah, I wouldn't put, like, I think at one point I took off like Microsoft Office from my resume, because like, we all know how
Well,
to
it
write
depends
it.
what you're applying to.
Well, it depends on what you're applying to,
Yes.
sure. For the
For
jobs that I was
admin job,
applying
yeah.
to, for the jobs I was applying to, they
Yes.
did not need to know that I
Yeah.
knew how to use a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Okay, I think, you have a question? I think, let's switching gears.
Sure.
So, can you talk a little bit about your current mission, Clipper, or do you have slides about that?
Sure, I don't have slides specifically about Clipper, but what I'll do, I need to finish in like 10 minutes, right? What I will do, so this is a presentation, I've changed it a little bit. You can see Clipper in the background there, that's my background. Surely that proves that I'm on the mission.
Yeah, that it's already there.
And then I'll share my screen, give me a moment. Promise I'm not wasting too much time, maybe I am. Screen, window, do. So I think what I'll do is I will bring up my branches presentation. We'll give this to new hires. I've changed it a little. So you see this LSU on the top. That's an internal program that we have for new hires or people that just need to get familiar with all the programs. This is my specific branch. Most of this, I think all of it, I cleared it up enough that it's for public release. So I'll talk a little about this and this will kind of get into there. So I work in a data center. We have 150 launch day consoles with little headsets that engineers sit on and look at their graphs and their data, and they talk on voice channels. And I've got to keep this short. I could literally talk about this all day. That's like the front end of our data center. The back end, racks and racks of servers, we're independently processing data, all of that stuff. My job, these are all the jobs we have in my branch specifically. I work as a missions operations director and a mission comm engineer. So I will read from the slide, designs data communication circuits to ensure NASA spacecraft customer command, telemetry, and control requirements are achieved. So that's what I do. So for Europa Clipper, around 3 years ago, if you like NASA lore, KDPC, Key Decision Point C, they passed it, they got their budget, they said, go acquire a launch service. They came to us. I got assigned to the mission. They said define all the requirements. So I met with their team, the Europa Clipper team, weekly, I guess, and we hashed out voice, video, data requirements. My job is voice, video, data telemetry. Everything that I do, that's my whole entire job. Talking, seeing, processing. And so we talked about RF requirements. What bands are you? K band, X band, S band? What are you doing? What frequencies are you doing? Do you need waveguides to test them? How are you going to use those waveguides? Can we convert it to fiber? Do you need fiber? Do you need 100 gigabit? Do you need 22 megabit? So I work out all these little nitty gritty requirements with them to understand what they need. I am the expert for all of the, I am one of the experts at Kennedy Space Center for voice, video, and data across pretty much the whole center. We touch everything. So we touch other programs, we touch commercial vehicle users, we touch Department of Defense. So we have people everywhere. We communicate to everybody. We talk to ULA, we talk to SpaceX. I have a SpaceX meeting every single morning at 8 a.m. when I talk about Europa Clipper with them to define what they're doing today with the fairings. Woo, so much fun.
So like tomorrow morning,
7:30 actually for the spacecraft meeting, and then 8 AM for the SpaceX meeting.
and none of these people are sitting in California?
Well, some of them are, most of them come
That's
over,
pretty early.
most of them come over, yeah.
Okay.
So you can see we touch a lot of stuff. So for Europa Clipper specifically, I am defining all of their requirements, where their data center is gonna be. Who do they have to talk to? They have a control room here at Kennedy. How is that control room going to talk to Europa Clipper sitting on top of a Falcon Heavy on pad 39A?
So they're gonna do that, they're gonna talk to the spacecraft while it's.
Well, not like talking, but they're gonna send commands.
Yeah,
and-
yeah, but
Yeah.
I understand, they're not gonna like.
Sorry.
"Oh,
I'm sorry,
I'm
I'm sorry.
you know?
I just had to do it once. I had to do it once.
Okay, but the spacecraft is on and they're
Mhm.
getting telemetry, they're checking everything's okay?
I
Okay,
think Europa Clipper specifically powers on like a week before they launch, and then they just stay powered the
I
whole time.
see. Uh-huh.
So
So does the rocket provide power or not?
that's a great question. The Launch Services Program defines those requirements of what's needed and works with the launch provider to provide those requirements. So not
But they
every
would have
spacecraft is
to
unique.
tell you like way long time ago before they designed their spacecraft, right?
Sometimes. So we don't push requirements on anyone. We
So
gather
you know
them.
it's possible, okay,
Yeah,
all right.
there's different spacecraft, they all have different requirements. Some have telemetry, some don't, some are powered on, some are off.
Mhm.
Some need to be powered from rollout, some can be turned off. Some need nitrogen
all of this is
purges,
possible.
helium purges, yeah.
All this stuff.
I think SpaceX just installed new stuff at the pad to like load helium at the pad or something for one mission. The providers are very fluid, at least with the government missions. Our contract has it's a very big contract, has hooks to allow us to request certain things and have mission unique services that NASA gets that maybe a commercial entity would not, depending on
Okay.
different, it's very unique every mission. But you asked about Clipper, and I'm trying to keep to my 4 minutes, so like all this stuff is. We define all those requirements. My specific requirements I care about, voice, video, data, that was the part where you, but there are people that are loads, they look at the loads and structural analysis, they take the CADs, they put it on top of a Falcon Heavy, they run all their simulations to see when it's in this vibration environment versus this vibration environment. If it's tilted -1 degree while it rolls up the pad thing, is it okay? Is the slosh in the tanks okay with the fuel on the spacecraft? How does it interact with it's a very complicated process to get into space on one of these vehicles. So that's what LSP does as a whole. My specific job with Clipper, I care about that voice, video, and data. So they'll tell me everything they need. I generate like a 30-page document, 40-page document of all their requirements for all that stuff. And then it is my job to implement those requirements. So whether that's getting a contractor to do it because that's the right move, or whether I design it, or I buy equipment to do it, COTS products, I spin something up myself. All these are on the table. My job is to provide value to these spacecraft by giving them my communications expertise and my knowledge of Kennedy Space Center, Cape Canaveral, or Vandenberg. We also do stuff out of Wallops, Kodiak, Alaska, Kwajalein Atoll out in the middle of nowhere in the Pacific. We've launched stuff from all these places, so we have expertise and experience as a group in all of these places, and we provide that to our spacecraft by making sure they are okay when they get to the launch site. They can send their commands from their control room. They can talk to their other control room. For Europa Clipper, it's a JPL mission. So they have a support area at JPL in California. They also have people on the launch site day of launch. They also might have other customers. So I will coordinate how to get all the data between these locations and do whatever I need to do to make it happen, essentially. So that's what I do. I have 2 more minutes. Any other questions about anything? Anything at all? I could go, I could literally, I enjoy what I do too much. Yeah. Sometimes it's spinning up our own software.
Maybe just a random question, maybe you're not the person to ask, but
I can get you in touch with who.
how's Starship gonna change all of this?
Starship is interesting because we don't know. So we've been having discussions for years already about when do we engage Starship, when do we not. Now, other NASA programs are already invested in Starship and looking into it and dealing with it, especially the human landing system, because Starship is contracted to provide that service on the moon for the Artemis program. So those programs and groups are already there. Launch Services Program, what we are interested in is rockets that do not change that much. I say that, and then you have SpaceX with Falcon 9 and they make changes all the time. Starship is not in a stable configuration yet to where we would want to start getting in the weeds. It's that provided insurance value. We want to make sure that we have experts on a rocket. If our experts spend hours and hours and days and months learning this vehicle, and then it changes tomorrow because of whatever reason, it's not value added to the NASA science spacecraft community.
Yeah.
But once we know the vehicle is more or less stable, we can now take that vehicle, learn the whole vehicle in and out, and do that. So dare I say, coming soon. They're supposed to be catching it on the next flight, so that'll be pretty cool. But yeah, hopefully that answered.
Yeah.
I did hit 4:30, so I think I'm gonna get in trouble if I keep going. I am more than happy to come back, though, if you want anything else more in depth, or I could actually do my research.
Actually, I'm honestly thinking, maybe we need to time this better, and then you would come, in time for students to advertise basically the opportunities.
Sure,
Do you see what I'm saying?
yeah, and I would come better prepared with all the information about benefits.
Or,
Okay,
or stuff.
I think, let's thank our speaker and then we'll stop it here for the time, for the purpose of recording. And now we have our main meeting. And we have a comment here from Patty, Jonathan, it's great. Great to see you, very informative, come back again.
Hi, Patty.
Yeah, so we could sort of.